Hello, in this video we're going to talk about entrepreneurship as theory development. I'll wait for the plane to pass by. Sorry, it got loud. So there's lots of different ways of thinking about entrepreneurship, and we'll get a chance to discuss some of these over the course of the semester. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite ways to think about entrepreneurship is really fairly similar to the scientific method. So if you've taken any of the hard science classes at all, and all of you have at some point or another and talked about the scientific method, you can think about entrepreneurship in a very similar way. We need to build theories. We need to create theories, develop theories, theories about what potential customers might value and ways that we could satisfy their needs and wants. And then we need to go out and test those theories and figure out if we're right. So thinking about entrepreneurship as theory development is one way to really tackle the uncertainty. This involves action, and it involves tackling the uncertainty that we've discussed. So again, entrepreneurship involves acting on an opportunity in the face of uncertainty in an effort to create future value. So we're going to talk about how to go about acting when we're facing uncertainty. Well, how do we deal with uncertainty? We got to try to see things that other people aren't seeing, and we have to create theories. We look for patterns. We look for ideas, intuition, things that other people haven't noticed yet. That's going to become the basis for the idea for our venture. So what does a theory look like? We're going to go over, this is just sort of one way. I found this really helpful. If any of you had Jeff Zeckler for ESP 103, he showed me this, and I think it's a really useful way to think about entrepreneurial theories. So it starts with a potential customer. And that customer wants something. They want the little pile of gold at the end of the rainbow. And so we want to help that customer get there, but there's some sort of problem. There's some sort of obstacle in the way. There's something that keeps them from attaining whatever it is that they want. Safety, security, convenience, cost savings, prestige, whatever it is, there's something that stops them from getting there. So what's our role in this story? Because this story doesn't even include us yet. This is a story all about, or a theory all about a customer that wants something and there's something in their way. Well, we get to be the guide. We get to be the wise baby Yoda in this case. We get to be the Yoda, the guide, and we get to say, hey, I've got a solution for you. I've got some sort of magic wand. And with my magic wand, I'm going to help you overcome the obstacle that you're facing, and I'm going to help you get to that value that you really want. Now, this magic wand is our product or service that we're providing the customer. So this is sort of abstract, so let's think about a more concrete example. Oh, there's the customer. They're happy. They overcame the obstacle using your product or service. They got the value that they were hoping for. So here's a more concrete example. I could have a customer that resides in a big city or is visiting a big city, is tech savvy, younger-ish, and the value that they want in this big city is convenient, fun, cheap transportation, right? That's the value that they want. They want a convenient, easy way to get around, short distances, but maybe a little bit too long to walk, or in a way that's a little bit faster than walking. But you know what? There's an obstacle. The existing solutions don't work real well. If you're using a car, it's hard to find parking. You have to pay all the costs of owning a car, which in a big city may or may not make sense. You got to deal with traffic. Maybe it's a little too far to walk. So, there's this obstacle. There's convenient, fun, cheap transportation is what I want as the customer, but there's something in my way. Well, enter the company. In this case, Bird Scooters, I'll use as my example. And of course, the magic wand is the actual scooter. And I say, hey, I can help you get this value that you want, and I can help you overcome the obstacle by providing a totally different way, rather than a car, rather than walking, or any other means of transportation, public transit, whatever it might be, a different way to get that value that you're hoping for. And pretty soon we've got a happy customer. So as you're thinking about your venture, what you're going to start to do is develop a theory. And often the starting point is going to be the customer, and really it's kind of three things. It's the customer, the value they want, and the obstacle. So we often talk about the customer and the problem as being the pillars. And implied in that is that there's something that the customer wants. There's some sort of value that the customer is seeking, and we've got to identify that. We have got to identify what's stopping them from attaining this value, and then we've got to come up with a solution that helps them overcome this obstacle. So where do we look for theories? I'll give you a clue. Okay, it's not in the obvious places. There's a great, apocryphal story about a drunk guy who is looking for his keys, and he's looking desperately, and he's looking right under the street lamp, and looking everywhere, and somebody says, "Oh, did you drop the keys under the street lamp?" He's like, "No, I didn't." He said, "Why are you looking under the street lamp?" And he says, "Well, that's where the light is." Right? And I think the tendency that I've seen over and over and over again among entrepreneurship students and entrepreneurs and everybody else, because it's the easy thing, is we tend to look where the light is. We try to develop theories in the obvious places. So almost every semester, I get 100 ideas about products and services that would help Miami students get to the gym more often, eat healthier, get up on time, find the shortest waiting line at the bar, all these things. And when you do that, when you build theories around those things, what you're really doing is looking under the street lamp. You're looking in the obvious places. Now, there could be something there. You might be lucky. You might be the one who comes up with a brilliant insight. But that's where everybody else is looking. And so the odds of finding something truly valuable in that space are pretty low. What I'd really encourage you to do this semester is step outside of the street lamp. Look for theories in non-obvious places, where there's less competition, where there's more potential to create value. And I'll try to remind you of that again and again. Build a theory, but step outside of the street lamp. So here's some places to start. You can start with your customer. You can pick a customer segment that you don't know anything about. Go talk to firefighters, go talk to loggers, go talk to intensive care unit nurses. Pick a customer segment and just start to ask them about their day. Say, hey, talk to me, walk me through a day in your life. Like, what do you deal with? What are the challenges that arise? Can you narrate what your average day looks like? So start with customer segment is one place to start. You could start with obstacles. You could look at things that prevent, all kinds of people from, reaching what they really want. These could be motivational obstacles. These could be physical obstacles. You could sort of really go anywhere with that, but you could think about, okay, what are things that get in people's way? And then sometimes you might take an obvious obstacle. Oh, wow, it's hard to get to the gym, and back into a non-obvious customer segment. So I had a team that did really well a couple of years ago, and they decided they wanted to redesign gyms. Well, there's lots of things that keep people from gyms, and gyms are a fairly obvious solution, and this fairly obvious set of problems that keep people from going to gyms. But then they focused on a unique customer segment. They picked mothers with small children. And so they said, oh, but the obstacle looks totally different if you're focused on a different customer segment, right? You can start with the solution. You can start. Now, this is dangerous. I say this with a word of warning here. And what I mean is, what you should not do is start with a clear, defined solution in mind and build it without ever considering the customer segment or the problem. The worst thing you can do is spend the semester building something that nobody wants. So when I say start with the solution, what I really mean is start with the technology, start with something that fascinates you. So maybe you're really into blockchain technologies. Maybe you're really into artificial intelligence, or polymers, or maybe there's some technological expertise that you bring to the table. And you could say, well, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with blockchain, but let me kind of understand what value this solution could potentially create, and then start thinking about the customer segment or the problem that this solution might help address. And then finally, you can start with yourself. You can say, who do I know? What do I know? What am I familiar with? And so we'll talk about in some of the other videos effectuation, but it often says, hey, let me just start with where I am. What's unique about me? Do I have a history of riding horses or climbing mountains, or do I know something about plumbing, or whatever it is. Let me start with who I am and what I know, and who I know, and then I can proceed from there. Now, regardless of your starting point, you're going to ultimately have to make sure that you build a coherent theory where all the pieces fit. Again, it does you no good to come up with a solution if there's no customer segment and no meaningful problem that you're solving. And so, regardless of where you are, these things are going to have to fit together. And we'll talk more over the course of the semester about where and how those things will fit together. But let me give you a couple of tools at your disposal so you can start to think, because your first task is to build some entrepreneurial theories. There's an assignment about this. We'll talk more about it in class and in the assignment sheet. But you can start with what you know, who you know. Oops, I wrote who you know twice. Who you are is what, oh, it does say who you are. Okay, what you know, who you know, and who you are. Start with interviewing. You're going to have to do interviews in this class. Interviewing is just a great way to start to get other people's perspectives, insights, understandings. It can spark a lot of ideas. One of the readings for this week, at least in my class, is going to be Innovator's DNA. And in that article, the authors talk about the importance of association, questioning, observing, experimenting, networking, these tools that really help push innovation. And as you use these different tools, you're going to start to be able to form entrepreneurial theories. The last thing I'll say is that not all theories are created equal. The best theories are non-obvious. Why non-obvious? Well, because if they're obvious, then everybody's already doing them. Gosh, we need another fast food restaurant on this corner because it's busy. Well, there's a lot of fast food restaurants out there. A lot of people are aware of that problem, and there's plenty of existing solutions. So, that's going to be pretty tough. It's going to be a competitive space. Versus if you're doing something less obvious, like, wow, I'm going to figure out a way to raise horseshoe crabs. And why would you want to raise horseshoe crabs? Well, it turns out that their blood is essential for testing vaccines, right? And if I can be the one who figures out, instead of how to harvest them wild, but I can raise them in an aquaculture setting, and we're right before a boom in a need to test vaccines, horseshoe crab blood might be the most profitable thing I could do. That's a less obvious solution. There's not a ton of people trying to figure out how to raise horseshoe crabs, but I can tell you what, if you're the one to crack that code, you are going to be a gazillionaire once this coronavirus vaccine is developed and needs to be tested. So non-obvious theories are better than obvious theories. Value creating. You want a theory that actually creates value. You don't want a theory about something that nobody wants or cares about. So again, this is the importance of making sure that there's real value for the customer, that they will take money out of their pocket to solve whatever it is that you're solving for them. And then finally, your theory better be right. It's got to be true. You might have the most wonderful theory in the world, but without some evidence backing it up, you could be just dead wrong. It could be that nobody wants what you're producing. So you might have a brilliant theory, but you better go test it. And so we'll talk more about this as well, but these are some things to keep in mind as you're developing your entrepreneurial theories. With that, we'll finish this video and look forward to seeing you soon.